What, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into a live edition of the Breakaway Bandits podcast, sponsored by the Big Out Village here on the Sports Insanity Network. I am Mike Rifkin. Hope everybody's doing well. We are live here today, June 25th, one day out from the first round of the NHL entry draft, which will take place in Buffalo over the next Friday, Saturday. But we are not talking about the draft. We will not dive into that at all. This episode, we're going to talk about the big trades that have occurred over the last week plus. We are going to discuss the Mike Babcock official hiring there in Edmonton, and we will talk about the 2026 class for the Hockey Hall of Fame. Let's start with Babcock, and then we'll get into the trades, and then we'll close out with the Hall of Fame. So, the worst kept secret in hockey was the fact that Mike Babcock was going to become the coach of the Oilers. That is now officially official, as Babcock takes over for Chris Knobloch, who got fired after the Oilers were eliminated in the first round by the Anaheim Ducks. Look, there's a lot to talk about with Babcock. There's a lot to talk about in general when it comes to the Oilers. And I got to be honest when I say this. I think one of the things that bothers me the most is some of the things you read about the Babcock press conference where, basically didn't take any responsibility for what took place in Columbus and why he got fired from there. But it's more than that for me. I've never met Mike Babcock. I probably will never meet Mike Babcock. Here's the thing for me, and Connor McDavid's kind of come out and said, given his seal of approval, which I know people in Edmonton are going to run up and go, yeah, Connor, he's in for this. I think Connor was kind of forced into this. I think Connor was forced into this. I think Connor. Listen, Connor has 1 year. The Oilers have 1 year to basically satisfy the needs of Connor McDavid. Otherwise, next year he's not going to be an Oiler. I don't care that Bob Stauffer can report that Connor McDavid's going to sign for 7 more years. I'm not buying that. But I think the person who got the rawest end of this deal in Connor, it's not Leon Draisaitl, it's not anyone on the team. It was Chris Knobloch. Chris Knobloch got handed a raw deal here. And what I mean by a raw deal, Chris Knobloch led this team to back-to-back Cup finals. Cup final appearances. They didn't win. They won the Western Conference. They didn't win the Cup. They have a down year by their standards, and they lose in the first round. But outside of Florida, who had played the most hockey? It would be the Oilers, guys. The Oilers would have played just the same amount of games as Florida, basically, over the last number of years. So there was a little regression in there. But I don't get why Stan Bowman got a basic pass, because this is a roster he's put together. And we can talk about Connor, we can talk about Leon, and you have two of the top 5 best players in the world. You had Evan Bouchard, who some people would argue should have been a Norris finalist. I think he finished 4th. With the goaltending. Tristan Jarry, that was a swing and a miss. That was a swing and a big miss. Like, until you improve that situation, I don't care who the coach is. Until you improve who's in goal, I don't care. The Oilers are in a spot right now where they have to be, have to be win now. Because guess what? If you don't win next year and Connor comes to you next summer and goes, I don't want to be here. I'm done. Guess what the Oilers can't do? Can't do anything. Connor McDavid gave them an opportunity by giving them the biggest break in any free agent history with the deal he signed, and they haven't done squat. So now it's on Stan Bowman. And if Connor wants to walk out in the year, Connor can walk out in the year. And there's not a damn thing the Oilers can do about it. And if you think Mike Babcock could be the savior, this is Mike Babcock who hasn't won a playoff series in I don't know how many years. So this is not. This is going to be an interesting hire. It's not a hire I would love, but it's the hire the Oilers made. So we'll see what happens there. But Mike Babcock, officially the coach of the Oilers, which means there's no more vacancies. That was the last one. So see what happens during the season. All right, on to the trades. We're in trade season. We've had a lot of big ones over the last couple of days. For the free agent market is dwindling just because guys signed extensions, so it's not a deep market. Let's start. I have the NHL.com trade tracker on up, so I'm gonna go through the big ones, and then we'll I don't remember on the last one if I mentioned the Darren Radish trade that took place on June 19th, but that's where I'm going to start, and then we'll move forward. The Leafs acquired Darren Radish from the Lightning for a 5th-round pick. This was a sign and trade. Radish got 8 years with $8.65 million per year. So Radish gets paid. He's another puck-moving defenseman. He's coming off a career year. And the Leafs get a defenseman they coveted. But here would be my question. Now we know Morgan Riley's probably going. That list has been his list has been submitted, and there's other stuff going on. To give a 30-year-old Darren Radish coming off a career year 8.8 by 8.65. Maybe you caught a break with the money a little bit because he could have maybe gotten around 9.5 on the market. But 8 years is a lot. And this is already an older defense core. Let's be honest about the Leaf defense core here. Oliver Ekman-Larsson's a mid-30s guy. Chris Tanev, I believe, is 36 or 37. You know, we talked maybe they're moving on. They're going to move off of Riley. You know, I've read some things about Jake McCabe. I think he's in his 30s as well. This is a really interesting opportunity here for the Leafs. And it still feels like instead of it being kind of a retool or a rebuild, which I think it should be, we're going for it. And I don't know if that's the right approach or the wrong approach. In my opinion, it's the wrong approach. Not the way I would go about it, but hey, listen, I think this is more to keep 34 happy, Austin Matthews happy, but I also think this is more the way Keith Pelly wants it to go. I'm not saying I agree with it because I don't, but we'll see what happens with the Leafs. But so they get the best, arguably the best defenseman on the market in Darren Radish. They signed him to 8 years, $8.65 million per year. And then we fast forward to Father's Day this past Sunday. And we got two trades, two trades. One of those teams is in both trades, so let's just get it out of the way. The Kraken acquired Mackie Samoskevich from the Panthers for a first-round pick in 2026, 25th overall, and a conditional 2027 second-round pick. Samoskevich is an RFA, and he played with Matty Beniers at the University of Michigan. So Seattle gets a young player that they could try to take a gamble on. Florida, well, Florida makes a bigger splash later in the day. So let's just dive in. The Panthers and Senators reached a deal that sent Brady Tkachuk from Ottawa to Florida for 2 first-round picks, 9 and 25, a second-rounder in 27, and a conditional first-round pick in 2029. So Brady Tkachuk goes from Ottawa to Florida, where he'll play with his brother Matthew Tkachuk. I'm going to give credit to two people. I'm going to give credit to both general managers. I give credit to Bill Zito because when the Samoskevich trade came through, my mind went to what's up his sleeve, and my mind immediately went to Connor Hellebuck just because of the whole Bobrovsky situation. I didn't see Brady Tkachuk come. And so he pulls that curveball out, and Brady Tkachuk gets to play with his brother Matthew. So kudos to Bill Zito, who continues to play chess while everyone else is playing checkers. But I want to give Steve Stais some credit here. He went to Brady Tkachuk and said, "Can I re-sign you in 2 years?" Brady said, "I'm probably not going to re-sign." So he goes, "Okay, I'm going to be proactive and I'm going to move you. Give me the list of teams you're willing to go to." And the list was Florida, Vegas, and Minnesota, and Carolina. Now, Carolina just won the Cup, so they didn't want to do this. Vegas, I don't know if they had the assets to do this. They may be more focused on Dylan Larkin. Minnesota probably had the assets, but they got a couple of other things. They're looking also at Larkin, and they're looking at a couple of other things. So Florida comes in. They make the most sense because Brady wants to play with his brother. I think the NHL is starting to have a problem. I wrote about this. It's up on the site, sportsstadiumnetwork.com, where the NHL needs to figure out these no-move clauses. Maybe teams have to stop giving you these out like they're candy. Because the frustration is, listen, if everyone wants to go play in Vegas or Florida or Minnesota, like, we're not going to have a league. So listen, I get you don't want to go to a bad team, and I understand that from Brady Tkachuk's point of view. He wants to win. But to sit there and say those are the only 3 teams you're willing to go to, kind of a frustrating thing for a lot of fans. But he guys wish he goes to Florida. And listen, I know there's a lot of people out there who are criticizing Stives. Oh, you could have gotten more. I mean, the guy gets 2 firsts. He gets 3 firsts and a second. I really can't argue with what he did. Plus, there's another move they make, which we'll get to in a little bit, that I think actually that helps them in the long run. You know, and as for captain, like, listen, I think you put that C on Thomas Chabot. That would be the guy. Listen, I know Stützle is a great guy, or is a great player. I would go Thomas Chabot. He's been there a long time. He embodies it. That would be the guy I would put the C on. But I got to be honest with you. I love Brady Tkachuk as a player. I think he's a really good player. He's physical. He's got a net front presence. He scores big goals. But we've reached this era in the NHL where these super teams are starting to exist. I think a part of that is the Olympics going back to the Olympics. I think that does play a role. But you know, I don't love it. I don't necessarily love it, but it is what it is. So Brady Tkachuk goes from Ottawa to Florida. In division trade, weird. And then we had massive stuff for the last couple of days. Let's keep it with Ottawa because they make this one. And this is the move that helped with the Brady to Chuck move. This was on the 23rd, so that would have been Tuesday. The Senators acquired forwards William Eklund, Casper Heitinen, Paul Tunin, and Brandon Svoboda from San Jose in exchange for the 9th overall pick. Okay, so Ottawa moves out of 9. They still have 25 from Florida. And now they move 9 to get William Eklund, who scored a ridiculous goal this year against Boston. That was probably the goal of the year. But look, San Jose is a plethora of young forwards. They're probably drafting another one tomorrow night at 2 when they take Ivan, or if they take Ivan Stenberg. Ottawa gets another top 6 forward. I'm not saying Eklund's going to beat Brady to Chuck, but listen, it's a good move for Staios. Maybe he overpaid by giving them the 9th pick. I wouldn't sweat it. William Eklund's a good player. And if you weren't going to take, who you thought there, I give Mike Grier credit, man. Mike Grier has really cooked. They have draft capital. They have money, cap space, and they got a young, promising team there in San Jose. And so Eklund, as good of a player as he was, listen, he may have fallen out of the fold just because of how many young forwards they have there in San Jose. The other deals on the 23rd. The Flames acquired defenseman Simone Nemec and forward Max Siplikov from the Devils in exchange for defenseman Etienne Morin, a second-round pick in the 2026 draft. That's 35th overall. A first-round pick in 27 or 28, and a first-round pick in 28 or 29. Nemec is a young defenseman. I believe he's an RFA, so Calgary's got to get him locked up. I hate this deal for Calgary. I love it from a Devil perspective. You get a lot of draft capital, and the Devils are a young team, and they can maneuver this draft capital. The Devils are could be right on the cusp with guys like Jack Hughes. Heishier's got to get an extension. Apparently, that's close. We don't know when they'll get over the finish line, but that's got potential there. Guys like Dawson Mercer play a role. We'll see what they do with a Dougie Hamilton. But I like this deal for the Devils. They get draft capital. They can upgrade whatever positions they want to. But I hate this for Calgary. Calgary's supposed to be in rebuild. Listen, Nemec is a young player, young defenseman. You just gave up way too much. If I was in Craig Calgary's shoes, I don't know what you're doing. I hate this deal for Calgary just because of the amount of assets you gave up. 35th overall is basically a first-round pick. So you essentially gave them 3 firsts and a defenseman. I don't get it. I don't like it. I don't like it for Calgary. It's a deal I don't care if Simone Nemec is the second coming of Nicholas Lindstrom. I just don't like that deal. You're not going to be a competitive team next year. But, it is what it is. But that's a great deal for the Devil. That's a great haul. Also on the 23rd, the Caps. The Caps have been active, and I really like what they've done. They get Jordan Kyrou from St. Louis. That was a name that was mentioned at the deadline last year. That was a name that was mentioned throughout the winter or the offseason. And Kyrou gets his spot in Washington for Connor McMichael, Milton Gastrin, and the 16th overall pick. So Washington basically saying, okay, we'll take the young player. We're going to give you a couple of young players, and we'll give you a first-round pick. It's a good haul for St. Louis. And Jordan Kyrou gives them flexibility in their top 6, depending on what happens with Ovi. Also, there's another move that the Caps make that we'll get into in a few minutes. But like it for the Caps. Like it for the direction of the Blues, too. Connor McMichael's a pretty good player. Is a nice young player. They get an extra first round pick. I think they now have 4 firsts, St. Louis. So they can kind of manipulate how they want to go about this. And they can get their rebuild kind of quickly underway. So that was big move. So also on the 23rd, the Sabres and Blackhawks make a deal. The Blackhawks acquired Bowen Byram from Chicago. Or the Blackhawks acquired Bowen Byram and Jordan Greenway from the Sabres in exchange for Louis Crevier, the number 4 pick in 29th draft, and number 45. Bowen Byram is a good player. He's a young player. He's a good player. He's got a lot of upside. Kyle Davidson should be fired for making that trade. And that's not to disrespect Bowen Byram. The Chicago Blackhawks have a massive need on the wing to help Connor Bedard take that next step. And you acquire a defenseman who, let's be honest, Bowen Byram, as good as he's been, they still need to figure out how good he's going to be. I don't like this for the Chicago. You're giving up the number 4 pick in a rebuild that I think, let's be honest, it's taken a long time. And you don't even add a guy who's going to play with your generational center. To me, that's just a stupid deal. Yarmo will kick a line, and that's robbery. By the way, you also have to take the Jordan Greenway contract. And you give up 4, 45, and a young defenseman. I don't know who made actually, I do. I don't know who made a worse deal between Kyle Davidson and Craig Conroy because they both made awful deals here. And when Bowen Byram signs an 8-year contract worth $78.5 million, or whatever it's going to be with the Blackhawks, he better be the second coming of Duncan Keith. Because you could have taken a player at 4. You could have put 4 in a package that could have got, a player like Jason Robertson or something. Said, no, we're going to throw it for Bowen Byram. I think that's ludicrous. I think that is a terrible job by Kyle Davidson and his asset management team. Same thing with Craig Conroy. You're banking on the future of those two guys. But at the same time, you're hurting yourself because of the amount of assets you gave up. To me, ridiculous. Terrible job by the Blackhawks. All right. On to yesterday where we had a couple of deals. The Preds and Avs made a deal, which isn't shocking, with Chris McFarland being the new GM of Nashville, coming from Colorado. The Preds acquired Jack Drury, Chase Bradley, and a 3rd-round pick in 2029 from Colorado for Fedor Svechkov and Zachary Leroux. It's basically cap stuff, I guess, for Colorado to create some more room. Jack Drury's an interesting pickup. He's an RFA too. He's a perfect 3rd, 4th line center. Good on the penalty kill. I thought he had a pretty good playoffs this season. Chipped in some offense. But he's a defensive-minded forward. I have no problem with it from Nashville. And they're helping Colorado out by having to pay Drury. So that's fine. And then today, so far, we've had a couple of deals. Florida acquired Garnet Hathaway from Philly in exchange for draft picks. That basically ensures AJ Greer's going to market. And then the Penguins and Caps made a deal. The Penguins get Hendrix Lapierre from the Caps for a 3rd-rounder in 27 and a 5th-rounder in 28. So LaPierre goes to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh uses their wealth of picks to get Hendrix Lapierre. And then the big one that we did, I just scrolled over, and I'm an idiot, so I apologize. How about the Caps and Sabres deal? The Caps acquired Alex Tuck from the Sabres for David Kampf and a third-round pick in next year's draft. Alex Tuck then signed an 8-year extension with the Capitals. I love it. I love it for Washington. I also love it for Buffalo from this perspective. They understood that they weren't going to get Byram and Tuck done. They weren't going to be able to sign them. So what they do? Well, instead of signing them, we're going to trade their rights. And in Tuck's case, it's a sign and trade. Byram's case, we're gonna just trade the rights, and we're gonna do as well as we can. So that's fine with me. But for Washington, look, Alex Tuck is another guy, top 6, gives them some goal scoring. I believe Tuck can help on the PK as well. And again, we're looking at a situation where for the Caps where we're waiting on Ovi. And we're supposed to hear that decision near July 1st, which is Wednesday, the first day of free agency. So it shouldn't be long. And I got the feeling these moves by Chris Patrick tells me Ovi's coming back, and they're going for it. And I have no problems with it. And I said this in a tweet last night, and you can follow me, Pummaster Rifkin. Or I said this to somebody on Twitter. The moves that the Caps have made in prior off seasons have allowed them to make the splashes this summer. And what I mean by that is, what was the Caps' biggest issue pretty much since Braden Holtby? Goaltending hasn't been superb. They tried Darcy Kemper. They've tried a couple of other. Well, they took a flyer on Logan Thompson, and Logan Thompson has turned into a really good goaltender. And then when they went through that mini retool, where they wind up acquiring guys like Jacob Chikrin and other pieces, and now they're flowing as a team. The Caps are going to be a playoff team this year. Like my mind right now, the Caps are the second best team in the Metropolitan, and that's saying something. Even without Ovi. But they get Dylan Strome back. They still have Tom Wilson. They're a deeper team with these moves. So if Ovi comes back, and let's say Ovi isn't Ovi, he doesn't have to play in the top 6. You could get third line Ovi. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. I think Alex Ovechkin's one of the greatest players of all time. But now he doesn't have to play 20 minutes a night. He could play 14, 15 minutes, including power play time. The Caps' depth just became a big thing here in the Eastern Conference. And so far, nothing else has gone down today. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. The last thing was Hendrix LaPierre. I do want to make a little scheduling note. Wednesday night, haven't figured out the time. Might be 7, might be 8. I'll do a free agency special on deals that have gone down, other trades. So between now and Wednesday, don't expect much. I do want to get into the Hockey Hall of Fame, though. That class was announced on Monday. We had quite the class. Brian Burke is going in as the builder, former GM. Was GM of the Ducks when they won the Cup in 2007. And Brian Burke has been a great hockey guy for a long time. So congratulations to him. Cindy Curley, who was a 3-time silver medalist at the Women's World Championships, also 200 plus points in 225 points at Providence University, one of the founding big members of women's hockey as it grew. Patrice Bergeron, who also will get his number retired by the Bruins next year. over 1,200 games played, 427 goals, 1,040 points, 6-time Selke winner, and he's a member of the Triple Gold Club. Patrice Bergeron was just one of the most dominating players, not from an offensive standpoint, but from defensive. He grayed out face-offs, was a clutch player, so big in that Bruins run in 2011. Was really, and I still think to this day, I think he was underrated because I think he was still the shadow of guys like Kopitar, Taves, Crosby. He falls into that category. He's underrated, in my opinion, was Patrice Bergeron. I think he was a fantastic player. Just great on faceoffs, great on PK, great on the power play, scored clutch goals. Go back to that comeback against Toronto they had. Such a good player, Patrice Bergeron. Carey Price, 361 wins, 49 shutouts, a 2.51 goals against, 917 save percentage. Won the Hart in 2014-15, also won the Vezina. Great goalie. One of the best goalies of his generation. Just couldn't get over couldn't get the big one, but Carey Price, congrats. Fantastic career. This next one shocked me a little bit. Pekka Rinne, 300 wins, I think it's 367 if I can read that right. 2.43 goals against, 917 save percentage. Won a Vezina, 2-time All-Star. I think won a World Championship too. I never viewed Pekka Rinne as a Hall of Famer, and I think that opens the door for a lot of others. So that opens the door for a Mike Richter or something, or Chris Osgood. I loved Pekka Rinne. I thought he was a really good goalie. I never thought Pekka Rinne was a Hall of Famer. And that's not to disrespect Pekka Rinne. Had he won that cup with Nashville, I would have said that changes the tune. But that one kind of, I don't know. I think you've opened the door to a lot of other goalies now. Older school goalies getting it. And then it must have been a good week for Keith Tkachuk because his sons are playing together and he gets inducted into the Hall, or he'll go to the Hall of Fame. Over 1,200 games played, 538 goals, over 1,000 points. Played for multiple teams. The definition of a power forward was Keith Tkachuk. And similar to how his kids play. Let's be honest. Brady and Matthew were power forwards. They play a lot like their dad. So congrats to the 2026 Hall of Fame class. 2026 Hall of Fame class. They get inducted in November. Two names that I'm disappointed didn't get in. Because now I can get off the Daniel Alfredson should be in. Phil Kessel. Ironman streak. 3 cups. At way over 400 goals, I believe. He should have gotten it. And then Rod Brind'Amour. What do we got to do to get Rod Brind'Amour? I mean, hell, the guy still looks like he played. You see him take his damn shirt off during the parade? Dude's jacked. But yeah, Brind'Amour, Castle, those are guys who should get in at some point. But, I mean, congrats to the class of 2026 of the Hockey Hall of Fame. I like how the Hockey Hall of Fame does it. They do a little spectacle. Not many games on that Monday night where they induct them in Toronto. So we'll see what happens. And then they get honored at a Leafs game. So I presume when the schedule comes out, it'll be the Leafs Bruins, maybe that's Saturday. Maybe Leafs Canadians because of Carey Price. See what happens when they release the schedule, which I believe is in a couple of weeks too. But again, like I said, Wednesday night, haven't decided a time yet. Probably between 7 and 8, we'll do a free agency special. If I don't get to it Wednesday, it'll be next Thursday. But definitely something that's in the cards that's coming. But, like I said, The draft tomorrow night, first round, ESPN, 7 o'clock. We'll see. Pretty much sure Gavin McKenna's going one, but we'll see what epic moves happen up there. So, expecting some more fun trades. We'll recap them all here on the Breakaway Bandits podcast. Check out the podcast version wherever you get your podcasts. Again, YouTube, we're live. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We got some new subscribers. Thank you for joining us. But if you want to tell your friends, if you like this, tell them to subscribe to the network. Go to the website, thesportsinsanitynetwork.com, for great blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. Follow the socials, Facebook, the Sports Insanity Network, Twitter, S Insanity Real. You follow me personally on Twitter, Pun Master Rifkin, same name on Blue Sky. Everybody have a tremendous weekend. And thank you for tuning into this edition of the Breakaway Bandits podcast, sponsored by the Dugout Millwood.